Hello, Rob here, and in this video we're going to be textually analysing the contents page of the set text of the big issue, which is October 17th to 25th, 2016. This is page 3, page 1 being the front cover, page 2 being an advert, and this is page 3. So, as usual, we have to consider the semiotics, we have to consider narratology, genre theory, structuralism, any kind of postmodernism that's going on as well. So essentially, what have we got in terms of semiotics? Let's just start with the basic generic conventions of magazine design, as Steve Neal would have it. Right, this is of course the contents page, right? Down here we've got the TOC, the table of content, which is in this banner, okay? Then we've got this, usually that would be where the editor puts their editorial message, and in this case they've given this to Donato here, who's one of the vendors who sells the magazine. Sadly died quite recently apparently. Anyway, lines like this are called rules. This is specifically done to look like a comic book speech bubble. Normally this would be pointing at the person speaking, it's not in this case, but the semiotics of that are clear. Here we've got the department head. This tells us what this section of the magazine is called, and in this case it's the contents page. This is the kind of department head logo that will run on multiple pages. So if you've got a department head that runs across multiple pages, it's called a running department head. So you've got your TOC, again, usually as usual separated into your features and your regulars. So they've got the enlightenment, they call it, because they are enlightening the audience about stuff, and of course it relates back to the artistic and scientific enlightenment a couple of hundred years ago. So they've got a page on books, film, so culture, Lucy's Suite, whatever that is, events and music, and a spot the ball competition. Consider the juxtaposition between the text and the numbers. The numbers tell us what page it's on. Of course, this is generic convention of magazine design. It tells you what page it's on, but I'm to say that it's on page 44, for example. Again, the same Century Gothic font as part of the magazine's house style, like up here. Here we've got down in the border, we've got the folio, the name of the magazine, the page number, and the date of release. Here we've got a photo credit for the photographer of this picture of Donato. Then notice how obviously it separates. It's got this coloured bumper, birthday edition, in red, as sort of like a heading. Then underneath again tells you what all the different parts are called. Notice how Grayson Perry's byline is in a different font to Younger Self. What's interesting here then is we've also got the logos of the different parts of the big issue. Notice that this font, for example, this layout, the design, the masthead, everything, that's going to be part of the magazine's house style. Separates it out from its competitors, makes it more identifiable. They've got a competition here, win, exclamation mark. Notice how it's in red because it's an exciting colour. It's in italics to make it look more exciting, as is the exclamation mark. A Ben Ein limited edition big issue exclusive print. Famous artist. Turn to page 56 for that competition. So that's called a turn, remember. So this is, you know, a bit of intertextuality. Celebrate, it says. That's obviously intertextual reference to the actual piece of art. So we've got this speech bubble here, along with juxtaposed with this image of Donato, who's obviously been photoshopped out of his background. And it says, "Hello, my name is Donato." So it's personalising it. It's like a direct address. He's talking straight to you. "I'm honoured to feature in the 25th anniversary edition of the big issue. It made a big difference in my life when I needed it. I worked all over the world, but when I came to London for a fresh start, I now have a roof over my head and a fantastic pitch between Victoria Station. Read more of my story on page 58. So that's a turn. Look, he's got a direct gaze. He's looking straight at us. He's got the iconographic big issue vest on the bib in red, so that identifies him. He's holding an issue of the big issue in his hands. Shows you what he's doing. Probably the most important part of this, though, is this, the Big Issue Manifesto. So a manifesto is where you set out your beliefs and your ideals. Notice the iconography, a bit like 1920s looking here, but notice this raised fist, right? This is an intertextual reference to Soviet propaganda art. As you can see here, look at these artworks here. It's called agitprop propaganda. Particularly noticeable, look at these ones, okay? This is very, very similar to this, okay? So it's relating back to that Soviet propaganda of the 1920s, 30s, 40s, 50s. So it's highlighting the fact that the magazine has got a socialist left-wing attitude. The raised fist is a symbol of resistance to authority all over the world. Red, of course, being the colour of socialism. So, what is their manifesto? We believe in a hand up, not a handout, which is why our sellers buy, in capital letters for emphasis, every copy of the magazine for £1.25 instead of for £2.50. We believe in trade, not aid, which is why we ask you to always take a copy of the magazine. Our sellers are working and need your custom. So, again, capital letters for emphasis on always. We believe poverty is indiscriminate. Notice we believe is always in capital for emphasis. Which is why we provide anyone whose life is blighted by poverty with an opportunity to earn legitimate income, implying, of course, that begging is illegitimate. We believe in the right to citizenship, which is why the Big Issue Foundation, our charitable arm, helps sellers tackle social and financial exclusion. And we believe in prevention, which is why the Big Issue Invest offers backing and investment to social enterprises, charities and businesses which deliver social value to communities. So, essentially, it's got this manifesto. It's setting out what the magazine is for. And a binary opposite in that respect of what it is not, if we bring in Claude Levi-Strauss's ideas. The Big Issue is not a commercial venture. It is not like Vogue. It does not exist purely to make money. It does not exist to create an ideal self which can be attained through the consumption of consumer goods, through things that are advertised in the magazine. Now, that's not to say that that doesn't happen in the Big Issue. Obviously, the kind of people or organisations and businesses that advertise in the Big Issue are going to be, you know, the kinds of ones that are interested in social justice, interested in environmentalism, interested in fair trade. And, you know, if you are investing in these kinds of products, if you're consuming these products or these services, that is going to be part of your self-identity. You know, invest in your money in these companies by buying their products and, you know, patronising their services, because that makes you feel good, because it's the kind of thing you would do because you think is the right thing to do, because you want your money to be spent on things that are moral. Okay? So, yeah, that's true. You know, the adverts are all going towards your self-identity as a reader if you know, patronise their services or buy their products. But that's not the purpose of the Big Issue. The purpose of the Big Issue is to help people in need. It has got a socially responsible ideology, right? And it is trying to promote a socially responsible ideology amongst the general public and its readers, specifically. Okay, so that makes it very different to Vogue in that respect. They're really in different businesses entirely. Right? So again, this communist style logo here, again, that's intertextuality because it's referencing Soviet propaganda art. Intertextuality referencing the artwork of Ben Einer here. Of course, you know, we can consider how audiences are going to react to this product. Now, these, of course, are what Stuart Hall would call hegemonic or preferred or dominant readings. It's what the producers of the Big Issue want you to think. They have a political ideology and they want you to ascribe to it too. However, you could have an oppositional reading, and you might think that, as we said in the other video about some of the other magazines, they might say, well, look, we recognise what it's trying to do, but we think that homeless people themselves don't have enough input in it. We think that it doesn't deal with homeless issues enough. We think it's too mainstream and it's just another commercial magazine, and we think that's not the way to go about things. Fair enough. Yeah? But to be fair, it's hard to imagine that anyone's really got that much of a problem with a Big Issue. I mean, even if you're the kind of right-wing person who, doesn't believe in, giving to charity, you can't really argue with an organisation in which homeless people are trying to work their way out of their situation. Really. What other kind of things can we do? In terms of representations, of course, and this is a key thing throughout the Big Issue. If we think about what Stuart Hall says, that representation is the production of meaning through language, and language being defined in its broadest sense as a system of signs. The relationship between concepts and signs is governed by codes. The idea of stereotyping as a form of representation reduces people to a few simple characteristics or traits, and the stereotyping tends to occur when there are inequalities of power, as subordinate or excluded groups are constructed as different or other. Though that's definitely the case with the Big Issue, and the thing is that homeless people are, of course, in terms of social structures, at the very bottom of society. They are, as Marx would call it, the lumpen proletariat. They are, the lowest of the low in that respect. They have no job, they have no home, they are the ultimate disadvantaged. Many of them are in this problem because they are the victims of, abuse, or they've got mental health issues, or they've got addiction problems, or whatever that's led them to this situation. So they are the most oppressed of the oppressed. And, in terms of power, they are the least powerful of all groups. They are the most excluded of all groups. They may also, if they are people of colour, if you are, kicked out of the house because of your sexuality, or you've got different beliefs to your parents or whatever, then you are very much other. You might be the victim of intersectionality. So what the Big Issue is trying to do is to challenge the stereotype of homeless people that is often negatively constructed. And it's trying to say, well, look, not all homeless people are the same. Reducing homeless people to simple characteristics or traits is harmful, and we want to try and counter that image. So all the way through it, you've got homeless people and people who have got precarious housing situations, and their vendors are all being portrayed in as positive a way as humanly possible. Look at Donato here, he's smiling, he's looking at us, he's tidy, he's smart, he's got his shirt on, his nice clean bib, and he's got these big issues fanned out and showing us that he's, doing a good job. He's got his little pin on there. I can't see what that's actually, it's a ribbon of some kind, but I can't see what it's actually promoting. He's got his ID badge. This is not the stereotypical image of the homeless person. So what this magazine is doing, as much as anything, like David Gauntlet would say, is providing us with the tools or resources we need to construct our identities. And in the past, we've had, the media tended to convey singular, straightforward messages about ideal types of male and female identities. Today, we've got more diversity in terms of stars, icons, and characters that we can pick and choose from. Well, nobody aspires to be homeless. But, you can, if you are homeless, you might see someone like Donato as someone to aspire to. Someone who has succeeded and has dragged themselves out of the desperate situation they were in. Right? You might admire him even if you are in a more privileged position than Donato. You might admire him for his motivation and for his hard work and for his, dignity in this respect. So think about how the big issue is challenging stereotypes, not just of homelessness, but of ethnicity and gender and all sorts of other things as well. Okay? Again, if you're talking about post-colonial theory, it's interesting that they picked Donato because Donato is an immigrant. An Italian man who's emigrated from Italy into Britain. So, again, at a time when, EU immigration, and, this is the, when all the Brexit debate was starting, with the time of, EU immigration and all the harmful stereotypes that were floating around about immigration, this is a positive representation. So, think about the representations. Other things like semiotics. Red, of course, red of the bib. So we're going to get a red all over this. So the colours in here. Pink is basically just a kind of red, so it ties in with that. We've also got the connotations of red with socialism. And, and it's a big, strong, bold colour that stands out. It's easy to see. A lot of white space here to counterbalance that, to make it look nice and tidy. Mixtures of fonts. So, these are in a sans serif font, but this is like a large block of text. They're in serif because it's easy to read. Display fonts are great for headings, but if you've got lots of text, they're better in a serif font. Notice the question and the answer. Question in bold, answer not in bold. Right, I think that's about it for this page. We'll tackle some more pages in the subsequent videos.